Struggling South Korean car maker SsangYong has signed a deal to be taken over by an electric bus company called Edison Motors with the help of China's BYD. Hello, my friends, and welcome to the Electric Viking. Fantastic to have you here on the channel. 2022 is going to be an amazing year. Welcome to all the new subscribers. Welcome back to everyone else. So, isn't this an interesting sign of things to come, right? Electric bus company takes over struggling ICE car manufacturer, turns it electric. That's their plan, I believe. Well, struggling South Korean ute and SUV manufacturer SsangYong has found a new owner. Now, it's interesting to think that they're struggling because their sales in Australia have actually been really good lately, but Australia's only in one place. Now, more than 1 year after the company entered voluntary receivership and just weeks after announcing a partnership with China's BYD for electric vehicle batteries and vehicle development, a report by news outlet Reuters and Yonhap says a consortium led by Edison Motors Electric Bus Company, a South Korean electric bus and truck manufacturer, is in the process of purchasing SsangYong for 304.8 billion South Korean won. That's 355 million Australian dollars, or around about 265 million US dollars. So really not a lot of money. Now, apparently there's only a few final legal steps to be remaining before the company comes under the ownership of Edison. Now, this amount is a lot less than the 474 million Australian dollars that Indian giant Mahindra paid for 70% of SsangYong in 2010, or Australian 720 million when adjusted for inflation, which actually saved the company from bankruptcy back then. Now, 12 years later, SsangYong finds itself being bailed out again. Despite being the third biggest automotive brand in South Korea behind the jointly owned Hyundai and Kia. It's actually not true that Hyundai and Kia are jointly owned. It's actually true that Hyundai only owned 20% of Kia, in fact. Now, after more than a decade of ownership and significant investment into new models and electrification, SsangYong made only modest increases in sales under Mahindra's ownership. What do those highlights include? Well, 120,717 SsangYong cars were sold globally in 2012 and a peak of 131,000 in 2017 before dropping to 85,000 in 2021. That's a decrease of 22% compared to the previous year. Now, surprisingly, SsangYong sales here in Australia have grown over this period. Sales hit an initial peak in 2011 with 1,700 vehicles reported as sold, followed by declines that saw independent importer Alteco pull the plug on the company in 2016. Now, SsangYong returned to Australia in 2018 with factory backing, with 3,000 vehicles reported as sold in 2021. That's an increase of 70% over 2020 figures. It's still a small number though, only 3,000 cars. Now, SsangYong actually reported a loss of 277 million Australian dollars, around about 200 million US dollars, over the first 9 months of 2021. In addition to the debt accrued before the company declared bankruptcy in December of 2020, after reporting a claimed 315.3 billion won, or Australian 386 million in overdue debt to multiple parties. Now, reports are that all the money in this purchase is actually going to go to creditors, but we don't know the exact total debt that the company holds. Now, Edison are saying they will reportedly set up a separate company intended to raise between 800 billion and 1 trillion won, or 930 million Australian dollars, about 700 million US dollars, to achieve a turnaround within 3 to 5 years. Yonhap says that with plans for SsangYong's rehabilitation required to be submitted to the court by the 1st of March 2022. Now, what's going to happen under the new ownership? This is the important part, right? Under new ownership, SsangYong will shift its focus completely towards electric vehicles, with the company showcasing 2 new electric SUVs in development, codenamed J100 and KR10. Now, even more importantly than these 2 new vehicles, the new owner has announced plans to produce 10 new electric vehicles by 2022, 20 by 2025, and 30 by 2030. Now, this to me seems incredibly ambitious, kind of ridiculous to be honest. They don't need 30 models to be successful, 10 Do 10 really well, and you can do extremely good sales figures with electric cars. Anyway, the interesting thing is here that Edison doesn't plan to use SsangYong as the brand. They plan to use Edison Motors as the brand of their electric cars. Now, what about BYD? How do they come into this situation? Well, SsangYong has partnered with China's BYD for electric car development. That's where the car development is going to come from. And I reported on that in another video I made. I'll put a link in the description below to that video. Now, just days before it was confirmed that Edison Motors' acquisition deal had been approved by South Korean courts, SsangYong announced a technological partnership with Chinese carmaker BYD, focusing on electric vehicles. It sounds to me from this partnership that BYD will essentially just build the cars for SsangYong and Edison Motors, similar in a way to what they're doing for Toyota. Put the badges on the end, build everything else, right? Under the partnership, BYD will supply battery packs for an upcoming SsangYong electric vehicle due in 2023, codenamed U100, and it will see two companies expand cooperation for joint development of battery packs and EV-only production platforms. Now, SsangYong reportedly will actually send engineers to BYD's headquarters in Shenzhen, China, to enable this collaboration. It's obviously likely that the SsangYong U100 bound battery packs are BYD's new Blade battery, the same units rumored to be used as a future BZ electric car in China. What's really happening here, honestly, in my view, SsangYong trying to save face, they're sending a few engineers over to China. Really? No, what's really happening? BYD is just going to make the cars for them. I think it's pretty much that simple. But anyway, very interesting here, right? You can see that car companies that haven't transitioned to electric cars, such as SsangYong, are basically screwed up the butthole. They're just, what are they going to do? They get bought out. And this is going to continue to happen over the next decade to lots of different car manufacturers, small ones, big ones, who knows? Lots of them could get bought out for very small sums of money like this. It's really a very small sum of money in the scheme of things. And I think this is just a trend of the future. Let me know, though, in the comment section what you think. Thanks for watching the channel, and I'll see you again on the next one. Bye-bye.